Welcome back to the show Disruptors. I'm your host, Aaron Hale, and this is Point of Impact. You've heard it before that there's no one perfect plan, and the system we have designed and set up for us right now isn't the only way. Go to school, get good grades, get that degree, and find yourself a corporate job. Work hard, save, put into that 401k, and get a benefit plan. And in 40 years, retire. Start to relax. My guest today knew he didn't fit that standard mold. And early on, he decided that he was going to leave school and blaze his own trail as an entrepreneur. Of course, the road to success, he found out, wasn't a straight line. And as he says, he had to get kicked in the teeth a few times before he made it work. But I think he's unlocked the code. He and his wife, in fact, he was calling me from half a world apart and 13 hours away. In fact, this interview happened from half a world and 13 time zones apart. Justin Williams, his wife, Tara, who is also his business partner, and their 3 kids are currently in Bali when I caught up with them. They're spending a few weeks there before they move on to another destination on their year-long worldwide adventure, all made possible through entrepreneurship. Justin and Tara are making millions. And not only that, but they're making millionaires. Justin goes through his experiences as learning, as he's learning. Justin Williams goes through his experiences coming up as an entrepreneur, trying and failing, trying and succeeding. And now he's teaching others how to do so too. Justin and Tara are making millions. Justin and Tara are teaching others how to find their success through entrepreneurship with their online courses, their training and coaching, and podcast, Millionaire University. Before we get into it, I want to ask you, please, if you could do a quick favor. It only takes a moment, but please give the show 5 stars, leave it a review, and share it on your social media networks or send it to a friend. You'll be making a small impact. And with that, my interview with Justin Williams. Welcome to the show, Justin. I'm really excited to get into this. And good morning to you. Good evening from here, but good morning to you on the other side of the world.
That's right.
Tell me, there's a lot to get into here, but I'm really excited to hear about what inspired you to start Millionaire University. But I'm actually right now more intrigued about where you're calling from. What are you and Tara doing in Bali right now?
So, yeah, we've been in Bali for 2.5 weeks. We leave in about 5 days to go to Australia for a month. But yeah, 6 weeks ago, we sold our house and essentially everything that we own. We got a small storage unit, put a few, had to keep a couple surfboards and stuff in storage. And we took off for kind of like a trip around the world with our family. And we actually realized that it cost us like $10,000 less a month to travel than to keep our house that we had. Plus, we were able to take a bunch of the equity out and invest it and stuff. But anyway, bottom line is this is something we wanted to do ever since our kids were little. And our oldest just turned 18 here in Bali, actually, a couple of weeks ago. And before he kind of moves, on in his life, this is something that we wanted to do with the family. And we just went for it and made it happen. So yeah, we have like a 9-month itinerary of started in Hawaii. Now we're in Bali. We'll go to Australia next week for a month. Then New Zealand for a few weeks, French Polynesia, and then we'll spend a few months in Europe. So yeah, it's been a blast.
Yeah, it sounds awful. I did get to live in Italy for 4 years in my early 30s, 20s. dating myself, but uh, that was on the U.S. Navy's dime, and it wasn't all vacation, but it was an incredible experience. I love to travel, and you told me after this you'll be heading to Australia.
Yep. Next week we go to Australia for a month, and there's like 7 different spots we're going to stay over the month, and just traveling along the east coast of Australia, going to the Great Barrier Reef and reef. I said reef. And a lot of other cool places. My wife did most of the booking, so yeah, it's been fun. We keep reminding our kids and ourselves this is not a vacation, quotation marks. It's a trip, because we don't want to come back like 50 pounds heavier. And we do have, like, our kids have schoolwork each day that they're working on, and the objective is to not just vacation, but to have a growth opportunity, an opportunity for our family to grow closer together, but also there's a lot of, I mean, you see all the Instagram things, like Bali itself, for example. If you look on Instagram, you'll see pure, beautiful amazingness. What you don't see is lots of cars and smoke, and we're staying in smaller places than we live back at home, and sometimes it can be challenging. And we look at those opportunities as growth opportunities to develop and get to have self-development and work on ourselves. And so it's been really cool. A lot of cultural opportunities, cultural experiences. But yeah, it's been really fun each evening to be in a different location. I feel like it helps change your perspective. Tara and I last night, we saw a movie theater we haven't seen one in Bali yet. We saw, there's a movie theater over there. And it was kind of cool. Like, we had no idea even what movies are playing. As to where in the past, it felt like we're like, aren't there more movies out that we can go and be entertained? So anyway, it's just been really cool experience to just sell everything, let it all go. A couple years ago, we bought this house that was like a McMansion, basically like the dream home. And it was fun, but we're like, yeah, we don't need it. Let's sell it and let's hit the road and have some real experiences. So.
I love travel. In fact, I haven't been to Australia in 30 years. I was 15.
Awesome.
And I got to go up and down the East Coast, Toowoomba, Tamworth, Brisbane, Mooloolaba, Canberra, Melbourne, Sydney. And it was incredible. Going out to you spend like an hour or more on this huge catamaran to go out to the Great Barrier Reef, and you're standing waist deep on top of this giant reef. It's just an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I definitely want to share that with my kids. How big is the family?
There's 5 of us, 3 kids. We have 3 kids.
That's amazing. How old are they?
Our oldest just turned 18 a couple weeks ago here in Bali. And then we have a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old boy. The 15-year-old girl, 13-year-old boy. So, yeah, it's been pretty fun.
I don't think the twins, who are 4 right now, would be able to handle a Sydney flight from Florida.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
Oh, where was home before I sold the house?
San Diego. So we lived in San Diego for 2 years. Before that, we were in San Clemente for 8 years. But yeah, Rancho Santa Fe, San Diego. So.
Here's the thing. I know you know this guy, Michael Weiland. You know that name?
The name's familiar.
How about the Weiland Wheeling Walls? The big familiar. Murals in Laguna Beach. I think he's got one in San Diego somewhere.
Yeah. I know where you're talking about.
My dad lives in Laguna, and when I was in Australia, I was on, I don't know, so it was a random like a tour bus just driving through in Brisbane, and I looked out the window, and boom, there was this giant mural of a seascape. I'm like, that is Michael Weiland. And his signature is probably like, since it's one of those enormous murals, just his little signature in a corner is probably 5 feet tall. But it was pretty neat to see that. But that's it's some of the cool things. There's culture. There are similarities, differences, and that's great to experience, and definitely for the kids to experience. And I think I think it's incredible that you have designed this life to which you can just pack up and take the whole family and spend a year abroad, and it's the best education, or better than sitting days, hours on end in a cinder block building at the government's behest. Tell me,
100%.
in fact, one of your episodes was about a curriculum for entrepreneurship. Can you tell me a little bit about what your idea of a perfect curriculum is for yourself, for adults, for kids?
Yeah. So to give a little context, I had a full ride football scholarship to Brigham Young University, and I hurt my shoulder with like a semester left of school. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to play football anymore. And once I knew that, I could not get myself to go to one more class, because I knew I was there for football, essentially. My whole life, I knew I wanted to start a business. I didn't know anyone who was a business owner. Something within me. My parents were in different MLMs, and so but ever since I was little, I always was wanting to earn money. So anyway, I found myself in this situation where I wasn't going to be playing football anymore, and I couldn't go to this class to learn about rocks, right? And I have nothing against rocks. Like today, I think they're pretty fascinating. But at that time, a young 20-something old guy who just gotten married, was ready to start a family. I wanted to learn how to go make money and to be able to provide for them, for my family, and have some of the things that I was dreamed about my whole life. So I dropped out of school, gave up. I was getting paid to go to school, and you couldn't pay me to go to another class. So I dropped out. We started our first business, a satellite dish business, and it went okay at first, but then our eyes got pretty big. We ended up with $120,000 of debt. Because we had a bunch of office space and a bunch of employees, and had this failed partnership, and just didn't have the sales team that we thought we were going to recruit to back that up. So Tara and I moved to Bakersfield, California. We moved to a place we call the Bachelor Pad. And our son, who's now 18, Brogan, was 6 months old by now. He slept in the closet of this house with Tara's brother, my brother, a bunch of other people. And we just worked our butt off every day. I'd go in the heat every day and sell for 12 hours a day to pay off this debt. And Tara helped with the admin, and we just did whatever we could. And within 6 months, we got it all paid off. And then we got into real estate investing. And once again, it was a lot harder getting that going than I thought it would. But after 8 months, we finally did a deal. And then we did a couple more, and we had some ups and downs. And a couple years later, we moved from Bakersfield, and then we lost our connections. And at the time, we were doing short sales, and that industry changed, and the market was changing. And once again, found ourselves in a spot where we were struggling financially. And it was just a really stressful time. This time we were about to have our third son. And I just remember going upstairs one night, and Tara's just on the bed in tears. And I felt like I had failed. I was the one who convinced her to quit her job as a school teacher, and that we can do this. Like, we're going to create this business. It's going to be amazing. And I just felt like a complete failure. Long story short, we eventually got some things figured out in the real estate world, and put some processes together, and got to a point where we were flipping 100 houses a year.
Yeah. So you're flipping houses. You're buying these houses. I mean, this sounds very familiar. But go on.
Yeah. So we just start like this house, this flipping like machine, if you will. Like, we just start to put together. I'm a big believer in what's called exponential growth, right? Like, business is not linear. It's not like go to school, get a job, you get paid, then maybe if you're a good boy, you get a raise. If things don't work out, you get let go, and you gotta go find another job. Business, you put a lot of work and effort up front, what I call ROTI, return on time invested. And then there comes a point where, through the compound effect or exponential growth, all these things come together where you now have a bigger knowledge, you have a bigger network, you have these connections, you have these systems and processes you put into place, assuming that that's the direction you're going. It doesn't just happen automatically. And then you can find yourself like, it's not an overnight thing, right? But it sometimes can look that way or feel that way. So we essentially went from 1 year making like $40,000 in that year and struggling to pay our bills and just doing a few deals, to the next year we did 60 and made a high 6-figure income. And then the following year did over 100 and made a 7-figure income, and it totally transformed our life. I remember when we bought our house in San Clemente, pretty close to the ocean, our loan officer looking at our financial, because they had like 3 years of tax returns, and they're like, what in the world did you guys do? Like, it was kind of awkward. Like, they didn't know how to like ask, but I was like, yeah, I know, I get it. It went from pretty high to pretty low, but that was the result of the time that we invested, all the things that we had done up until then, and then things finally started to come together. And what was interesting is, in order for us to do that high of volume, I actually had to get out of the way. We had to put together these systems and processes that couldn't include me, because I'm only one person. I could only do so much. And so we got to the point where we were working like 5 hours a week on this business. This isn't like a sneaky thing, or I'm trying to sell you something, a 4-hour work week, and if life was perfect. No, it was really hard to get there. But the truth is, we created something that was outside of ourselves, right? A business is called an entity. Like, as humans, as people, we're our own entity. But we created this business, this thing, this machine that could essentially operate without us. So cool, like, retired early, in early 30s. We're like, this is awesome. Not retired, we still had the business, but we didn't have to put a lot of time into it. And then after, surfing for a while and hanging out at the beach, like, it didn't take long, about like a month or two, and I started to get kind of bored. I'm like, this is it? Like, we thought we had like arrived, and we're like, well, this kind of sucks. It was fun for a while, but then we didn't feel that fulfilled. And so we then started a company teaching people how to flip houses. I actually didn't know what company I was going to start. I knew I wanted to do something with digital marketing, because in my mind, I didn't know a lot about digital marketing. I wasn't very techie, but I was like, I know that that's important. It sounds funny saying now, right? Like, this was like 15 years ago. No, not 15. It was like 13 years ago, 12 and a half years ago. But in my mind, I was like, I know marketing is important, digital marketing, online marketing. I should learn more about that. This is like one of my biggest weaknesses. I'm going to lean into this. And at the time, my brother, because I was, into real estate investing, told me about this podcast called Bigger Pockets. And I listened to like 1 or 2 episodes. And at that time, I remember thinking, I wonder if there's a podcast that teaches you like online marketing or general business. So I looked at business podcasts, found a guy named John Lee Dumas. He was like the top business podcast at that time. And I was like, oh, I'm going to start checking this out. And I was blown away. I was enamored. Like, I listened to like 1 episode of one podcast before recently at that time, and I couldn't sleep. I was like, these guys are just teaching you how to make money, how to start businesses. The very first one I listened to was a guy named Pat Flynn, who I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. And I was like, this is insane. This is awesome. And like, I couldn't sleep for like the next couple months very well, because I would wake up in the middle of the night and just like consume, like I was consuming, like learning. Mm-hmm. So anyway, eventually I reached out to Pat, I reached out to John. I'm like, hey, I want to like start an online business. Can you help me? I didn't hear back from Pat. That's not a hit on him at all. It's just, I'm sure he was getting 1,000 emails a day and mine slipped through the cracks or something. But John was like, yeah, I got this program. It's like a little mastermind group. And it was like one of the very first things he started, I think, even before Podcasters Paradise, which was his big program, and that really took off. So I joined that. And I remember him saying to me, he's like, well, what are you going to do your podcast on? And I was like, I'm not doing a podcast. I don't know how to do a podcast. He's like, well, you reached out to me. I'm the podcast guy. You got to do a podcast. So I'm like, okay, well, I know how to flip houses and do real estate. Maybe I want to do something else, but I am familiar with that. Maybe I should do that. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start there. And ultimately, I always wanted to teach general business, but I didn't know as much about general business as I did real estate. So I figured that was a better in. So I started this podcast, called it House Flipping HQ. Once again, it took a while. It took me several months. It was like 8 months in. We started a program called House Flipping Formula, and it was going okay, but we were making way more money flipping houses. with way less effort, way less time. And this new thing was just so much work and effort. And I'm like, oh, surely this is like my third business. Surely this time it's going to be easier. But man, I just got knocked up and upside the head, and it was brutal. And when you're in that moment, like you want to quit, you want to give up so many times, but I just kept thinking, what am I going to do if I quit? I remember coming back from, was it our 10-year anniversary? That's wild. To Costa Rica and telling Tara, I'm done. I'm going to throw in the towel. She's like, well, what are you going to do if you do throw the towel? So I just kept pushing a little further. And sure enough, we eventually got connected with a guy named Russell Brunson. And I swore, okay, we're going to this event. I'm like, I swear I'm not going to join his level mastermind group. Like, we've been ripped off of those things in the past, and we're not doing that. And within like a couple hours of the event, we were going back and like signing up for his mastermind group. And we were in that for a while. And I remember going to the first meeting and him asking me, he's like, why don't you have a high level mastermind group? And I was like, well, because those guys are like scammy and they take your money. And we had in the past a real estate group that we joined, and the guy like, we won a car that we didn't get, and we found out that he wasn't really even doing real estate investing and stuff like that. Funny thing is, we still learned a ton from it, but it just kind of put a bad taste in our mouth, and we'd seen some other stuff. So, but Russell was like, well, are you going to rip people off? Are you, like, I had this thing in my mind that if you charge a lot of money, that means you're going to rip people off. He's like, you're paying me $25,000 a year. Like, why would, do you think I'm ripping you off? I'm like, no. And so anyway, sure enough, literally from that event, like that next day in the morning, Tara and I created a video. We sent out an email to our following, and we had 13 people within 1 or 2 weeks join our $25,000 mastermind group, and it totally turned things around. Mm-hmm. And Aaron, this is kind of what we were talking about before. That mastermind group was called 7-Figure Flipping. Okay, that's what I named it, because the entire goal was to create a business that would be like $1 million business, right? And went to that first event, and there's this guy there named Bill Allen. And I was like, everyone went around and shared their experience, and Bill gets up and shares his experience. And I'm just like, I'm so stressed out. I'm like, oh no, we've made a huge mistake. Like, this guy has done like just a few deals. He's nowhere near where everyone else has been. Like, to be in this group, you had to be pretty qualified. I didn't know how he fell through the cracks, how he got in. And I was kind of embarrassed. And I thought I was going to have to like talk to everyone and get him out of the group. But by the end, I could tell, I'm like, okay, this guy's pretty smart. Let's see. He seems to fit in okay. I don't think there's going to be a riot of everyone like being mad at me. So I said, let's see what happens. And by the next event, Bill had like, everyone was listening to Bill. Bill would share something, and everyone was doing it. And I said in my mind, I said, I don't know what. I said, but I'm going to do something with this guy someday. And sure enough, long story short, he eventually became one of our coaches. He became my COO. And then I was talking about making him the CEO. And one day we just got talking. And by this time, we had brought on several coaches: Andy McFarland, Bill Allen, Mike Simmons. So we'd created this like system, this business, once again, that didn't really need me. As hard as that was to say at that time, like, it operated without me. And I was just talking to Bill, and I was like, I forget how it got brought up, but it was almost like a joke at first. And I was like, would you want to buy it? And he's like, would you want to sell it? And so we got this dialogue going, and yeah, he eventually bought the company, renamed the entire company 7-Figure Flipping. Yeah, if you go back and listen to the podcast, 7-Figure Flipping, the beginning, you'll hear it'll be me going. So anyway, I'm sorry. I talk way too much, Aaron. I don't let you get a lot in there.
It just so happens, I'm familiar with Bill. I actually saw his testimonial on Millionaire University website, and Bill Allen may be kind of an innocuous name, but it jumped out at me because I have been a 7-Figure Flipping student myself, and been in the mastermind as well. I
didn't know that. That's awesome. I did not know that. Even when you mentioned that you knew Bill, I didn't know that you were in that. That's so funny.
Yeah, small world. Okay. Yeah. So you guys strike a deal?
Yep. So yeah, for over 4.5 years ago, we sold to Bill. And a few things I want to point out. Number one, he's like, well, I don't have all the money to buy it from you. But once again, getting creative, we made something that worked out. I didn't necessarily want all the money up front anyway, because I didn't want to have to pay taxes on all that money. I would much rather, if I got all the money, I would have to pay 50% taxes essentially. And then I would have to go invest that money, and it would have been like half of the principal that I would be investing, because I'd have to pay the government first. But what we did is he paid a chunk up front, and then we did a self-financing deal, if you will, so seller financing, I guess, type thing. So we were able to get paid interest on a higher percent. So we literally, just off of that deal, and we had other investments, other things going on, and money that we made from other stuff, but we didn't have to work anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, it just covered our expenses and then some. So anyway, it was kind of cool how that all went down. And to me, I'm super proud of what he's done with it. Like, I think maybe I was meant to start that company, but he was meant to run that company. And I think he's done a phenomenal job, and he's an amazing person.
You know, he's a great guy. He's got the engineer, you know, that meticulous engineer's mind with this Terminator tenacity and energy. So yeah, and he's done quite a bit with seven-figure flipping, with his the wholesaling flipping business with blackjack, and he's got the multifamily side, and it's just he's done quite a bit for himself in the last few years.
Yep. Yeah, we've invested in the multifamily. I was just telling you, we just sent him a big chunk of money yesterday, and it's been great. So, but that was your question. You asked me a question like half hour ago, which was about the curriculum in Millionaire University.
Well, what I was, you know, it was my fault for jumping ahead of the script. I should have asked you a little bit about the background.
You're good.
And you know what? It's great. You corrected me, and we got some of the background. But I do want to find out what happens next. I mean, you built this business. You built it, and to the point where you were able to sell it. And then, of course, you sell a business, and it's time to dip your toes in the sand and retire, right?
Yeah. So we're on to like our second retirement by now. And this time I was like, I really am retired. That was great. It was a great run, but we don't need to make money anymore, right? Like, we have more than we need for the rest of our life through passive investments. We did it, right? We did it once again. The dream. Because before it was like we retired, but we still had the business. And now there was no responsibility. There was just collecting a paycheck. We made a bunch of money from that. We had other investments that had done well, and life was good. We had arrived, and that was great for a few months. And then I started playing a lot of pickleball, got involved in a lot of church and community. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna serve and have fun, but give back to people. And what was so strange is, through all of this stuff that I thought was the dream, like making the money, but then also serving, right? So you think that's good. I actually ended up doing a lot of things that I didn't enjoy doing. I was knocking doors for the PTA to raise money for the fundraiser, and doing all these things that in the past I would have hired someone else to do. Like, it just wasn't my genius zone.
PTA's fundraisers?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was like, I have the time. I'm going to help. I'm going to serve. So now I'm operating in a capacity which isn't a bad thing. I think if doing this for a few hours a week, I think is a great thing. But I just don't feel like it's my genius zone to just be kind of doing certain tasks. Like, I hate paperwork. There's certain things that I just do not like to do. And the cool thing about owning your own business is you can hire those things out that you don't like to do, and you can focus on the things that you love, that you're passionate about. I love helping people grow their businesses. I love helping change lives through that way. I was probably making the PTA like $10 a month Anyway, that was kind of like when I realized I can't just keep doing this kind of stuff anymore. And so once again, just kind of wasn't feeling super fulfilled. And it was kind of a weird, depressing thing in a way, because I was like, no, because I didn't want to start another business. It's been a lot of work. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of times I felt like I disappointed Taryn. I was just like, we've done it. I'm not messing this up. I'm just going to sell off into the sunset and live a great life. But I just can't kind of get out of it, right? And So started another company called Five Oak, which is a review automation software company with a couple guys. But I was more of just the investor. I was the money guy, and I got a little bit involved in that. But then after a while, I was like, okay, you guys go ahead and run this, because it wasn't like totally my passion to focus on that. I just love teaching people. So took a little more time off after getting into that for a little bit. And for years, I had complained about the college education system and how it's broken, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And why don't you learn how to make money? Why isn't there more application? Like, to me, you should apply things as you learn, not just go and get a teacher that you may or may not like, take a class that you may or may not like, but you got to get that letter, you got to get that grade, you got to get that diploma. So you just keep going through the motions, even if it's busy work, even if it's something that you're not interested, you just got to do it. I was like, no, there should be a better way. Like, the best way to learn is by taking action. There's so many people that graduate and they end up with a bunch of debt, and they don't like their job. They don't like what they do. And so for us, it was like, well, just go start a business. But as our kids are getting older and ready for that next chapter in their life, like sometimes like it's a lot easier said, like, go start your own business, than done sometimes. And I see them and I'm like, I want them to have that guidance. I want them to have that direction. So we're at this dilemma of, do we encourage them to go to college or kind of just throw them out to the wolves, if you will? Like, just go for it. Good luck. And I just kept thinking there needs to be a hybrid. There needs to be a school that teaches people how to make money, that gives them that guidance. And I was looking around and found some things, but just wasn't finding what I felt like should be out there. And lo and behold, one day as I was complaining about how somebody should do this or someone should fix it, just that voice was like, why don't you do something about it? And then I tried to fight it, tried to put it off. But eventually, and ultimately, like I mentioned, when I started House Flipping HQ, now 7-figure flipping, this is actually what I wanted to do back then. We just weren't ready. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, we already had the domain Millionaire University. And we just decided the thing that we want Millionaire University to be felt way too overwhelming. But we thought, you know what? Start somewhere. Let's start somewhere and we'll build it over time. We're not in a spot where we need to, do the hustle and grind thing. We don't need to put in 60, 80 hours a week. But let's just start somewhere and start this movement, start this momentum, get other people involved. And then over time, we'll create this thing that we want it to be. So yeah, in February of this year, we started the Millionaire University podcast. We actually started trying to do like tons of stuff on Twitter and our blog, and just trying to do way too much. And then within like a month, we're like, we're all burnt out. And like, wait, we don't have to do this. Why are we doing this? So we scaled it back and we said, let's just focus really on the podcast, make that great, do some things on social media, but make sure that we're not putting so much work into this thing that will allow others to have the freedom and then take away the own freedom that we've created for ourselves. So we started to strike that balance that we're always looking for as people in life and as business owners. But yeah, now we're to the point where we're building out a team. So we're starting to build out more of the written content, and I'm starting to see it kind of unfold and all that. So
I want to ask you about the kids. You were talking about, as they start coming of age and start thinking about their own careers, they've expressed their interest in a certain occupation. Are you telling them about entrepreneurship? Are they like, come on, Dad, again with the entrepreneurship stuff? What do they think about Mom and Dad's career choices and what they're doing now?
Yeah, so it's kind of both, if I'm being incredibly honest. And I think that was a huge inspiration for us starting Millionaire University, because I feel like I kind of ruined my kids as far as they have no desire to go to college, right? No desire. But I also am like, now I'm to the point where like, oh shoot, like I've kind of put all my chips in this thing of like, you should start your own business. But it's hard sometimes, if I'm being honest, to get them to like do their chores. Or our kids sometimes work with us and it's hard to keep them on task. And I'm like, oh, how are they going to start their own business? And that's why Millionaire University, the whole concept is where you take those same, 4 years that society has kind of like put out there for young adults to say, this is your opportunity, take this time, educate yourself, do something, and then go start your career. right? But I'm like, well, what if you like were able to kind of go after your dreams early on and learn a lot of things that will help assist you in that? Then you kind of have like a few years to kind of fumble around, if you will, and then succeed. Because what I found is if I were to take any number of people that, let's say I took the same people that qualified for a certain university, but I were able to take like a chunk of those and work with them for 4 years, like guaranteed with maybe a 99% accuracy that in the long term, those people that I worked with would be much more financially successful. They'd probably have been like more self-developed, that have a lot more opportunities, that have more fulfillment from life, that they'll give back more and all this. But the problem is we don't really have a whole lot of that in our society. The kind of expectation is you go to college or you're a loser. Essentially, it's kind of what they don't say it out loud, but that's what most people think. So if you go to college, you graduate, or you're a loser, right? And a lot of people think I'm anti-education, but it's actually the opposite. I'm actually pro-education to the point to where I'm willing and wanting to try to help evolve it and change it as much as I can. I'll be stoked if tomorrow colleges kind of change the way they do things. I think that'd be awesome, right? And I think there is this movement going on where people are seeing that. They're seeing that there needs to be change. But anyway, so as far as what my kids think of it, they're pretty much ruined with college. Like they don't want to go to college, but I see them like they're not ready to start a business tomorrow. So it's give and take. Like I think they see what we've done and they love it and they think it's awesome. But there's also a lot of realizations that are happening in their mind. But yeah, sometimes they do give me a hard time sometimes. So I love talking about this stuff. And I'm trying to learn. There's something that I'm working with Tara. She's teaching me with the kids, right? Because she's a lot better with the kids. I'm great with the kids as far as I like to have fun and teach them a lot and do a lot of things. But sometimes I need to back off just a little bit and just recognize they're kids and let them be kids, right? Mm-hmm. But we went to this island off of Bali last week. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at like real estate prices and different Airbnb opportunities. I'm seeing all these opportunities. And yeah, my kids are kind of like, oh, Dad, can't we just like not worry about that right now? So yeah, I get a lot of that as well. But
I've tried so many things.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's that going? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm blabbering a lot. But no, our oldest son, he actually he took a test to skip his senior year of high school and get similar to like a diploma. And he's working with us during this time that we're here. So that's been huge, right? Like he still needs, I can't just like say, okay, good luck, go out there. And he's going to go start this insane successful business, right? He's not quite as like, I'm pretty like gung-ho, like wired that way. And a lot of people think, oh, people are born entrepreneurs or they're not. I don't believe that. I believe we just have to start teaching our kids at a younger age, but also putting them and giving them those opportunities. I don't believe that you just say good luck and then go play video games and that's better than college. No, you're better off going to college if that's the route you're going to take. But I see my son going back and forth. Like, for example, we recently brought on a content writer to help us create content for the Millionaire University blog. I don't like to call it blog because I feel like I feel like there's more to it. And she's created some amazing articles for us. You can go check them out if you want. Some of the most recent ones we've done, she's helped us create. My son essentially hired her, right? And we did a podcast on this where we talked about it. And I just told him one day, him along with my brother-in-law who works with us as well, I said, okay, you guys are going to go hire a content writer. And they're like, their jaws just dropped. They're like, what? I'm like, hey, first you have to learn about SEO and about hiring a content writer. So I gave them 2 days to learn. 1 day to learn about SEO and 1 day to learn about hiring a content writer. And then the next day was action, right? So versus going to school for 4 to 8 years, they had 2 days to learn how to do this. And they were freaking out, but they got it figured out. And they placed an ad. And then they got all these resumes. So it's like, oh, now what do we have to do? Now we have all these people applying. That over 100 people that they went through. And at first my son's like, I can't tell who's good or not. And he's like, what should I do? I'm like, figure it out. And he figured it out, right? So I gave him a little bit of guidance, but overall he had to figure it out. And they narrowed it down to the top ones. Then they got on calls with them. They did interviews. And they ended up hiring a content writer, right? So he's been put in this spot where he's been learning these things. And it's been huge for him. And I have no doubt that after doing this for a while, it'll be second nature to him. And he can use these skills that have built on each other to essentially do whatever he wants in life, right? So,
that is funny about learning to do something or getting something accomplished in 2 days. Set these ridiculous goals and set improbable due dates, completion dates, and see how creative, imaginative, and productive people get. When he said, who was it? I think it was Tim Ferriss was talking about he crams for everything, because it's like the suitcase effect. The bigger the bag you have, the more you just bring with you. It's not the more room you have. Same with the timeline.
Yep.
So, it's just funny.
Yeah.
So, okay, I need to do this in 2 days. That's impossible. No, it's improbable.
Like Parkinson's law, right? The task will amount. I don't remember the law exactly, but it'll go down to the amount of time that you give to it, or procrastinate on purpose. I'm a big procrastinate on purpose guy. That doesn't mean that I avoid doing the most important things that I should be doing today. That means I'm doing the most important things I should be doing. I'm putting off the not as important things today so I can focus on the most important things. I'm putting off not doing the not quite as important things today to tomorrow so I can do the most important things today. It's not avoiding the hard things, but procrastinating on purpose. I'll look at my schedule and I'll see the different things I have going on. And I'm like, hey, this thing right here that is important, I'm only going to give myself these few hours on this day, the day before it has to be done, because your brain goes into a different gear. And you're not on Instagram or Facebook or social media or reading articles. You just got to get it done, and you get it done, right? Now you can't do too much of that. I've been guilty of that as well.
Yeah. The reason I asked about the kids was that, I've got a tween. He'll be 13 in about 2 months now. And for the longest time, I've been just trying to keep planting that seed and nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit. And he just wants to be a pro lacrosse or soccer player, and maybe a rock star. Is learning the guitar. So awesome. Okay. How can I turn this into a business? But it's of all these ideas I hear from other entrepreneur parents, like creating the business reading list for kids and teens, and I'll give you $50 for a 1-page summary, your book report on the books I want you to read. Not a single one. No interest. And you'll like this. Not so long ago, just a few days ago, he comes back from doing his chores. He goes, Dad, I was pulling up the trash cans and they smelled so bad, I felt sick. I said, sit down, son. What do you think somebody like the neighbors would pay for you to scrub their trash cans out? And maybe $10, $15. It's like, I don't know, $50 sounds pretty reasonable. How many cans on average does the neighborhood, each house have? I don't know, 2 or 3. Okay, that's $30-$40 per house. How long would it take you? And you know what? I got this idea from one of your episodes. It was like,
awesome.
Side hustles, like eight businesses you could.
Yeah, I was gonna say we talked about that on our podcast.
Yeah. Got the idea right from you. Of course, I probably wasn't as convincing. He's like, that doesn't sound like a great idea at all. Let's do the math. How many can you do in an hour? And how many hours in a day could you work? We did the math, and it was tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars accrued. Now, especially when you start recruiting his buddies at an hourly wage, he's like, wow, that's like $275,000 a year. So when you're a junior in high school, what color Lamborghini do you want to pull up to school is.
Yes.
And then, of course, our trash cans still stink.
Yeah. This is what I found with kids, or with anyone, actually, with us as well, is it's kind of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But I think as you continue to plant those seeds and then also give them space to be kids, over time, like I see it happening in my 18-year-old, this thing, light bulb starting to come on where he's like, oh, I'm going to have to figure this out. It's like at some point, because I'm going to kind of be doing my own thing. And I think that they'll have all those things in their mind, and that they'll grasp onto it. And if they don't, like, that's cool too, because there's nothing worse than being in a spot where you're now that person trying to force your kids to do something that they don't want to do, and they feel like they're a disappointment, right? No one wants to be that. But yeah, and you were talking about the perfect curriculum was kind of like the first question you asked me and what you wanted to talk about. But the reason why I came up with this curriculum was because while we can't start this quote unquote university, like physical college, physical school tomorrow, like I just sat down one day and I said, if I could start a school tomorrow, what would it look like? And I wanted to do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, to kind of give everyone the vision of possibility of what could be, or how they could adapt this to their own life. But 2, you got to have a vision so you can start to head in that direction, right? So I essentially came up with this curriculum that would be, it's 8 classes, and the idea is you take 4 classes per day, and then you rotate schedules every other day, right? So Monday and Wednesday, you're taking the same classes, and Tuesday and Thursday, you're taking the same classes, and then you get like Friday off, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, the classes I came up with were class 1 would be like a kind of a book club and a content listening and sharing class. Because while I'm a big believer in what's called just-in-time learning, where you decide what business you want to do, you decide the thing you want to do, and then you start taking action, and then you learn as you take that action, and you learn the next thing that you have to learn. I do believe that there is a percentage of learning that we should do that comes from outside of that, right? Mm-hmm. That just comes from, because that's where you get a bunch of different ideas from. So that was kind of one class. And then the idea is like each month there's a book that everybody's reading and talking about, and then people can bring and talk about the different podcasts or content that they've listened to. Then class 2 would be business fundamentals, which is basically business development, how to pick a business. And then in that class, I would have everyone come up with the business that they want to do. And then this entire curriculum, this entire school, if you will, is geared towards, all the things that we're learning is geared towards helping them with that business, helping them grow that business. So every class they take, every assignment they do is an actual assignment that's going to help you with your business. It's not write this paper from AI that no one's going to read and no, you don't really care about, you're just trying to get a grade. No, it's like the market will tell you if you succeeded or not in that assignment, right? So along with that class, it would be all about developing systems, processes, learning about KPIs, scaling, hiring, training, email. I just realized with my son and my brother-in-law, people who don't use email on a regular basis, like, don't know how to use email. Most kids coming out of high school don't really know how to use email. They don't know how to carbon copy someone in. They don't know like all these basic things that those of us who have been using email for years know. So that would be kind of one of the things to make sure they understood. Calendaring. So many people don't use a calendar or a system to get things done and to keep track of things. That's something over the years that we've used and has been huge, and realized a lot of people don't use it, and that's why things fall through the cracks. Productivity and things like that. Class number 3 would be all about digital marketing, SEO, PPC, Facebook marketing, YouTube ads, social media, website creation, and like things like that. Class 4 would be all about video and audio creation, recording, editing, YouTube, and shorts. So that kind of goes along with the digital marketing, but it's just a more specified thing. Digital marketing would be we spend a lot of time in, obviously. And then class 4 would be all about mindset, perspective. I believe this is truly where people sink or swim, where they succeed or fail, it's all in the mind. I mean, if we can control our mind and not let it get the best of us, we can really do anything in life. Class 6 would be all about the boring stuff, but important stuff like accounting, financing, balance sheet, taxes, how to save money, understanding payroll. And basically what I do love is the whole just understanding ROIs and returns and percentages. I'm not the best at math, but I know basic addition and multiplication. And I understand that if you do one thing one time, if you can figure out how to do that 10 times, you can make 10 times the money, right? So helping them understand returns, annualized returns, all that stuff that I learned through real estate investing and other kinds of investing has helped me in an insane way in seeing and identifying countless business opportunities throughout my career, throughout my life, I guess. Number 7 would be all about just learning about different business opportunities, how to agency or learning a digital skill and how you can turn that into business opportunities, SaaS or software opportunities, e-commerce opportunities, coaching and education opportunities, all kinds of service businesses, things like the trash can thing that you were talking about, car detailing. I think most people think you have to have this big change the world idea. And like all the time people are like, what do you think about this idea? And it's like some thing that I'm like, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But number 1, usually they don't do anything with it. And number 2, a lot of times it's super high risk. My thought is, why not look at what other people are doing, match that with what you're good at and what you love, go do that thing that's super low to no risk, go start making money with it. Then you can start hiring people out as you're making money, right? Bootstrap it. And then people just have this notion that business is risky, you're going to lose a ton of money. Like, it does not have to be. And then once you're in the spot, like with us, where you've made a decent amount of money, then you can, like our situation, like we haven't made a dime on Millionaire University. We spend like $50,000 a month to grow out a platform that we have been making very little money on, but that's with intention because we're trying to build something and we have money that we're now able to invest, which we've invested a lot of money into other companies. We're like, why not invest this into our own company, right? But you don't have to do that at the beginning. Hey, we didn't do that at the beginning. At the beginning, I was selling satellite dish, right? It wasn't rocket science. And then we went out and did real estate investing. We did it in a way that wasn't risky to us. We didn't use our own money at the beginning, right? So you don't have to risk a lot of money. Okay, I got a little sidetracked there. And then class 8 would basically be a twice a week mastermind meeting where we would have guest speakers come and speak, but then would also have people get up and go around the room and everyone shares what they're doing, what's working well, what's not going well. And we would have other business owners in there, we'd have other mentors in there, millionaire mentors, as I like to call them, and we'd just be coaching these kids, coaching these guys, and helping them work through the problems. And everyone comes together with their collective resources and helps each other grow. And we're focusing on their specific business. And the cool thing is, if you start a business and in a few months you realize that's not your thing, that's fine. It's not like when you go to college for 4 to 8 years, you've spent $100,000 on your education, and you decided, I don't want to be an attorney. Well, that's fine, but now you got to you have a ton of debt. You got to start over, if you will. And it's like, no, if in a few weeks you realize this isn't your thing, you still take all the skills, the marketing skills, all the things that you've learned, and you apply it to something that you're more passionate about or interested in. So that's kind of the concept of the curriculum.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you were saying about it, you don't have to have, the next mind-blowing innovation. It's about filling a gap, of solving somebody's pain point. I know a guy actually local here that's just making a killing going around cleaning grills, outdoor grills. So that's his oh my gosh, he's cleaning it up.
I love it.
So you find a need, and then you build a business around that. And
yes,
that's fantastic.
So what's interesting about that is as you do that, then that's when a lot of times the crazy innovation does come, because this guy's out cleaning grills and then he learns a lot about grills and then he realizes, I think we need a new cleaning tool. I'm just shooting from the hip here, right? Mm-hmm. We need a new thing. So then he starts an e-commerce company selling that. And then he's like, there could be a new kind of grill, and he creates a new grill, but now he's made some money, he can get some funding, he has knowledge about that thing. I see so many people that have no knowledge about something and they'll have this random idea. Number one, they're probably not going to take action on it because most people don't. But number two, it's like you don't have to do that. You don't have to start that way. Anyway, so I love that. It's awesome.
Who's looking for Millionaire University? Who's your avatar? Who are the people that are seeking you out, or maybe who are the people who don't quite know that they need you yet?
So I'm going to say something that's kind of controversial here, and I'm open. I always try to be open to changing my mindset and perspective on this. But for me personally, I know avatars, and like I would not be a very smart person to say that no one should ever focus on an avatar or a target audience, right? If you're creating a product about grills, you want to find people who are interested in grilling, right? But for me, what I've found is from day one, I try to have people sit down and have me write like a huge business plan and come up with my perfect ideal audience and my avatar. I was like, I'm just going to go knock doors and see who wants satellite dish. Like, I'm more of an action, go make it happen type guy. Yeah, I remember someone sat me down and they wanted me to tell them exactly what my ideal client for my satellite dish business company was. It's like, I don't know, but I think they're behind those doors. Go, ready, go, And it's kind of similar with real estate. I'm like, I don't know. I just put the house up for sale and whoever buys it, buys it. And then, so with my house flipping education business, it's the same thing. People like coaches and people are like, who's your ideal client? Who's your avatar? What do they look like? What's their name? How old are they? I don't know. I'm going to start a podcast and see who listens, right? And I'm just going to talk about what I'm passionate about, what I'm excited about. For me and my personally, I found that I need to be doing something that excites me. Mm-hmm. If I get too focused in on exactly like the person, the like, I'm trying to just gear it towards them and not something that I'm excited about, I'll fizzle out, right? So for me with Millionaire University, what I found is our avatars are, this sounds pretty broad and most marketers would say this is wrong, you shouldn't do this, but my avatar is my 18-year-old son who needs to figure some stuff out and like what he wants to do next. It's my 44-year-old brother-in-law who a year ago was in jail and struggling with drugs and alcohol and is now turning his life around. It's my attorney who recently helped us with some things we were dealing with, and now I'm helping him automate his business. So I just see all these different avatars, and it's a kid that I talked to a couple of weeks ago while here in Bali, who's 22 years old and is about to have a baby, and is struggling and trying to get some things figured out, right? Like, so to me, I would say ultimately, if I could snap my fingers, like our avatar would be that 18 to 22, like college age person who is early on in their life and wants to change things. I think the best time is to start while you're young, but the best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago. The next best time is today, right? So I don't know. I like to think, especially as our world evolves, that I don't need to have my avatar is Johnny, who's 30 years old, and he likes to. No, it's like we like all nationalities, all genders, all. We feel like we can help anyone who has an interest to change their lives and make money and grow. And so I think it's part of that is too, like with podcasting, it's like whoever hears the message that they connect with, they're our demographic. Then you got Facebook, like, and you have these different, like Google search, we put out a message, people find it. Facebook, it's like Facebook goes and finds the people you're looking for, right? That fit your target market. So I have come to find that, yes, it's important to have maybe kind of know who you're not marketing to, who you're not talking to, who some of your general avatars are. I just never done the thing or gone to the thing where I'm speaking to just this one specific person, because to me, it's constantly changing. The way I see Millionaire University is we start out with foundational things, and then we get more into the advanced, and it speaks to different people depending on what stage they're at and whatnot. So I know that was a long-winded way of asking who we're trying to talk to and connect with, and I think a lot of businesses do need that. I just haven't found that we've needed that or haven't had that as a huge focus, if that makes sense. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it or what I'm missing here, because I've had a lot of people I've talked to, like, they want to start with what is my target person, and I'm like, I don't know, but this is how we're doing things, and it's gone well so far.
I know that my show attracts a variety of people, because everybody wants to make an impact. All I do is I talk to my former self. I
love that.
I want to break through that hard noggin a little bit earlier, and hopefully get him or younger me on a better course. And well, I want to ask you, we'll start wrapping up here. I know you've got a day to start and me to finish. But what is your favorite part about Millionaire University? You get to work alongside your wife. You get the freedom with your children. You're making an impact in your listeners and your students. The money freedom, time freedom, all of that. What is the best part to you? What's most fulfilling, or what makes you makes you happiest?
I think I could drop the mic right now with everything you just said. I mean, like all of those things you said, you nailed it, right? I think from a young age, I've just been a big believer in you can do whatever you want in life. And by doing whatever you want, I'm not saying that you do it when you want, how you want, and you're not going to have, like, if someone's goal is to have a jumbo jet, but they haven't put in any work and they want that tomorrow and they only want to work like, it just doesn't align. Like, right, your goal, your things have to align. But from a young age, I've just believed that if I'm in my life, I want to travel the world and I want to give back to other people. I can do those things. If I want to work when I want to work and not work when I don't want to work, I can do that. And it hasn't always been easy. It's been a lot harder than I thought, but it's pretty cool looking back and seeing now being in a place where you can do those things. And it doesn't, once again, I think the coolest thing about making a lot of money is realizing that it's not just about making money. Mm-hmm. But once you get to that spot, then it's a great opportunity to say, okay, what else do I have to improve? What else do I have to develop? I believe we're all on an inner and an outer journey. But I do think it's working on a lot of those outer things, like having a goal of trying to create a successful business. You really got to look internally. You got to look at yourself, and it kind of changes the person that you are and who you become. But I love, but a more practical response to what you're saying is, if we were to go to a family reunion, you would find me in the corner talking to anyone and everyone who will listen about starting a business, making money, changing their life. Like, if they think, oh, I'm struggling with, I am to a possible detriment. I am a fixer. I like to solve problems. So it's like, it's hard. Sometimes I got to put myself in check in a marriage and with my kids to have a balance with that. But when you're speaking to people who want that and are interested in that and will pay you to do that, I am just so pulled towards that. And I love it. There's nothing I love more than the balance of, like, I could do this for a long time, Aaron, but just talking about business and ideas and breaking down, like, what traditionally people think and kind of reshifting that, helping people have epiphany shifts of what's possible. Oh man, I love that stuff. I could do that. I could do it all day long. It's the balance of that. And then I like to play hard. And I think that's part of the reason why we're taking this journey of traveling, because every day we have something else really cool. It's like we can work till 2 or 3 o'clock, and then we have an adventure that we can go on, and a new place to explore, a new group of people to get to know, a new culture. And it's been a blast.
I think it's so funny too, because I think one of your podcast episodes was like, "Help, I'm married to an entrepreneur."
Yep.
And I'm just thinking, my wife and I started these businesses together. But you're so right. Give me 2 minutes, and we will be talking about real estate very quickly. I'm going on a run, and I might have a guide, a running buddy, partner who runs right beside me, and the conversation will go like, "Hey, welcome back from deployment. How did it go? Oh, by the way, did I tell you about my latest project? Let me tell you.
Yeah,
I wrote something about it. Want to hear it? Here it goes." That's all I know about that. You just kind of that ability to steer the conversation towards your most favorite thing. And you know what? I did want to ask you this before I lose it. Is it's a bit of a dichotomy. You don't don't want to focus. You don't want to do it for the love of money, but you're also very focused on numbers. I was really impressed when you were talking about monetization of your podcast and just running numbers. And so I think it's important for any entrepreneur, not just a podcaster, but everybody to pay attention to the numbers and to be able to forecast, not because the money is most important, but because you need to know the numbers. If you don't know the numbers, you don't know your business. So that was really impressive to me because you do talk a lot of numbers. Is that something that comes naturally to you, or is this something you had to learn?
I love numbers. Like once I hit algebra in like middle school and high school, I started to struggle with math, but I was always okay with addition and multiplication. And I think it was just, I love, like I would get animals when I was younger and raise them, like lovebirds and different animals, because I'm like, oh, they multiply, right? Like I pay this and then they create they have babies and I can sell them for more. So yeah, I've always really loved numbers, but I think it got accentuated as I invested in real estate and did more and more. But no, I've always loved numbers. And don't get me wrong, if you do not focus on making money in a business, you will not make money. You will struggle. And I love making money because making money, it gives you freedom. It allows you opportunity. It allows you, I mean, just the very specific stories that I could share just within the last few days, weeks, or months of people's lives that have been affected in a positive way due to the money that we've made or has been made through the Millionaire University organization or through us making money in the past that now allows people to help us grow and go forward. And I can share stories literally of the guy yesterday who lives on the island that we just came from, but he's now living here more on the mainland. He goes and sees his family like once a week. And we were literally able to give him like an extra $10 for bringing us the driver to bring us to our place and just to see him light up and help him in that little way, right? So small to the content writer that we recently brought on. And she's so excited that she can now, quote unquote, spoil her kids, as she says. And this is a side hustle for her, right? Like, and anyway, it's just so cool to see all the impact of the lives that have been changed through the different companies that I don't even like to say that we started, that we did, because it wouldn't be possible without these people. But because of us having this vision and taking action on that, to see the lives of all the people that have been changed. But if your company or organization or you don't make any money, you can't do that. That stuff can't happen.
Absolutely.
And then once again, with us traveling, a lot of people are like, oh, you're so lucky you get to travel the world. But to see the amount of money that is exchanged hands in that, the airlines, the hotels, the people that provide jobs for their family, and their life has been improved because you decided to be a part of this regime of making money. I think it's amazing. I think the only trap that sometimes happens is if people talk about your why, and people say, oh, I'm doing this for my family, but then they'll read like 100 business books, they'll work 15 hours a day, and they're making plenty of money. But then instead of, okay, now let's dial it back a little, let's do 8 hours a day, let's spend that time with the family. Let's make sure when we're at dinner, because I've been guilty of this, that's why I can speak to it, when I'm at dinner, that I'm listening to my wife and I'm not thinking about my next business venture and how much more money I can make, even though we're fine. Like there's a time when you got to do what you got to do. The guy is not with his family right now because he's taking care of his family just to make ends meet. But once you've made ends meet, once you're making a decent living, and I have no problem with still working hard and doing what you want and love to do, but if you're still totally checked out, that to me is where money is an issue, because you're now worshiping money that you don't really need. And you're missing out on why you initially set out to make that money in the first place, right? That's rare. That's hard to get to. It's like everyone talks about the bodybuilder at the gym, or like, I don't want to work out too hard because I want to get too big. And I'm like, well, start working out. That's not going to be a problem. Like, the likelihood of you getting to that problem is pretty far out. So work hard, get your button gear. There's a lot of, from whether like religious backgrounds, like the different things. I mean, people have misperceptions of money is the root of all evil. And so we have a lot of this like ingrained in us that like money is like quote unquote bad. Like money is not bad. Like money is a good thing. It's a great resource. It's needed. It's the way we exchange value. But there are
just that
is where
a resource.
yeah, exactly.
That's all it is.
Yeah. So
Well,
anyway,
this has been absolutely fantastic. And you're right about that. And, money's not evil. It's just money. The love of money might be the wrong way to look at it. But it's the love of what it can do for you and for others. And it's a symbol. Is a reward for doing, adding value into the system, but it's really just a resource. It's a way to transact, to change, to pass value on. So, before we use the barter system, I'll give you, one pig for 3 chickens. I don't know, but let's just trade these coins and bills for now. And anyways, if anyone wants to learn more, wants to contact you, wants to get involved with Millionaire University, where do they go? How do they find you?
Yeah, you can go to millionaireuniversity.com. You can go to millionaireuniversity.com/training if you want to get our free business course. And then you can always reach out to me personally, Justin@millionaireuniversity.com, for anything, whatever you need. Hit me up if you have any questions or whatever it might be.
Well, I will let you get back to your trip to Bali and enjoying that. That reminds me, I got to get you in touch with my friend who just bought a villa there and is renovating it. I don't know if it's fixed up, but I think there's 3 houses in this villa.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to hear about that. That'd be super cool.
I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I've gotten a lot out of it myself. I know the audience has too, and I'm excited. Thank you for joining me on Point of Impact.
Aaron, thank you for having me. And maybe I should have said this at the beginning, but I've had the chance to listen to a lot of your stuff and seeing what you've done. And thank you for your sacrifice for our country. And you're just an amazing person. And it's really, truly been my honor to be on today. So thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you. And by the way, that was such a small world again with the whole Bella Holland and seven-figure flipping. It's funny how this just comes full circle. So
yeah, no, it's crazy.
With that, thanks one more time, and we'll call it a day. Take care.
Hey, thanks, Aaron.